about what has happened in this country when it comes to speaking out against religious indoctrination, particularly whether or not you can speak out against the state of Israel.
Got a lot of attention, and it drives me very crazy to this day because it's so preposterous, and it really predates October 7th. I would say it's now up to 35 or 36 states in the United States, the vast majority of which are red states, but not all, that have enacted laws that make it a requirement, if you want a government contract, that you certify that you do not support a boycott of Israel.
Wow.
Now, could we just address the lunacy? And this is, I've always said, of all the things about Wasserman Schultz that always drove me the most mad, this is it, because this is what she worked on. She worked on laws specifically pertaining to this, that not only can you not speak out against the state of Israel, but if you do, you are basically facing economic sanctions as a result. You speak out against Israel in the state of Florida, we will make sure that your business cannot get a contract. Now, there's no party lines here. They're all in this together. Just as she's in it, DeSantis is in it.
But this has been going on. This is the same concept as all the anti-BDS legislation that we were seeing. This is the same thing that was legislated in Texas by I believe she was a speech pathologist a few years back that won her case when they refused to let her sign a contract unless she would promise not to boycott, divest, or sanction the Zio state. So this has been a problem for a while. I'm not exactly sure the exact context in which Glenn is speaking of it, like being utilized.
Well, he has more to say.
And a lot of people who had contracts before this law was passed ended up getting fired because they refused. There have been hurricane relief aid that cities have conditioned on signing a form that says you don't support a boycott of Israel. There have been all kinds of firings in universities for people who criticize Israel. So it's been developing for quite a while. It's not like it just started.
Hurricane relief was predicated on a signed statement that you don't support a boycott for Israel. In other words, you don't even have to be actively boycotting Israel, but if you conceptually support it, you can't get hurricane relief, emergency disaster aid.
Wait, where is Glenn talking about specifically?
Probably as it relates to what went on in the Carolinas, what went on in Florida, what went on in Georgia. Think about this. How many people died as a result of that?
There's still people that they haven't found. So, there's people, yeah, and they still haven't gotten any relief in Carolina. They haven't.
Is that true?
First of all, this is the kind of thing that I know people don't believe unless they go look it up. It's so shocking. I know. If I didn't see it myself, I also wouldn't believe it. I think if I heard that, I'd be like, that's a conspiracy theorist saying crazy stuff. No, that actually is something that was instituted in many places. Different kinds of language, but mostly it requires that you certify that you don't participate in a boycott of Israel in order to get, a state contract or in order to get hurricane relief. There were HHS regulations once RFK took over that were forced on by the administration that said certain grants you can't get unless you certify that you're not supporting a boycott of Israel. Talking about grants for research that would help Americans' health that would then got conditioned on this sort of thing. So this has been something that has been going on for a while. Let me just say one other thing, Tucker.
Well, whatever that one thing is, we didn't get it. But
all right, for everybody trying to figure out about Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner being Jewish, Nimoy was Jewish. Shatner, I'm not sure about.
Shatner is Jewish.
Okay, and we need to just bring back the Hanukkah song. Except for now, we're hating on Adam Sandler, and I don't want to. That's how we could all learn all the people that are Jewish is the Hanukkah song.
Just like you and me. I can do Adam Sandler.
Khan was a Zionist? Or when you're saying Khan was a Zionist, are you talking about Ricardo Montalban? Who is this? Blue Lantern, are you saying that Ricardo Montalban was a Zionist? Let me know, because married to a Trekkie, so I know these things.
Yes, of course. I was
half Jewish. That's what it says.
But I am Ricardo Montalban, and I love Israel, this beautiful country. I'm from Spain, if you remember. I made my pilgrimage across the Mediterranean and went to see the beautiful land. Would never have known otherwise. Adam Sandler is a massive Zionist. Just came out and said Tucker Carlson is now only a couple weeks away. We're gonna get to the second clip in a second. You just stick around.
We know Sandler's a Zio. We know.
I love Israel because I am.
It's unfortunate, but here's the thing. Regardless of that, seriously, the Hanukkah song was one of the funniest things. At that point, when that came out, that was one of the funniest things I had ever heard, like played on the radio.
Simpson.
Not a Jew.
That was the last one. So do James Caan.
Man, people, they're loving your hair. It's great. It does look good. I don't know, because you probably feel like it's overgrown, right?
It was overgrown, but now it's at like a level where I feel pretty good.
Right.
Yeah. And it's actually a great place to conclude this evening, because as much as it's a joke, Netanyahu.
Wait, are you serious? Wait. are you serious? What's a Trekkie? Okay, so now I feel really old. So Trekkie is somebody who is a Star Trek in any format enthusiast. Now, I happen to be with someone who's been all the Star Treks enthusiast, and so I'm very familiar, all of them. So it's just somebody who goes to like Trek. I've been to the Star Trek convention. I have. I've been to one. I've also been to a Comic-Con. But yeah, that's what it is. Trekkie is one of those people. Yeah.
As much as it is a joke to even ponder the idea that Netanyahu would make a statement of Tucker Carlson is a couple of weeks away from a nuclear weapon, here's what we know with absolute certainty. As the empire continues to crumble and Israel continues to see its way out of existence, they are going to do a lot of dangerous, reprehensible, genocidal, and end of world type things, including, and I'm not kidding here, sicking the CIA against Tucker Carlson.
Today, I found out that the CIA is preparing some kind of criminal referral against me, a crime report to the Department of Justice on the basis of a supposed crime I committed. What's that crime? Well, talking to people in Iran before the war. They read my texts. So the crime under consideration apparently would be the Foreign Agent Act or something like that, acting as an agent of a foreign power. And I don't expect this to go anywhere. I'm not too worried about an actual criminal case against me for a bunch of reasons. One, I'm not an agent of a foreign power. Unlike a lot of people commenting on U.S. politics and global affairs, I have only one loyalty, and that's the United States, and have never acted against it. Its interests are the only interests I care about because I'm from here and I have a lot of kids. So that's not a concern. I've also never taken money from anybody. Don't need it, don't want it, and that's provable. And moreover, it's my job to talk to everybody all the time and try and figure out what's happening around the world. That's literally what I do for a living. And I'm not going to stop doing that, nor should I don't think. I'm also an American. I can talk to anybody. I have no secrets to divulge. So legally, I think the case is ludicrous, and I doubt it will even become a case. I'm bringing this up for a couple of reasons, though, and they're pretty obvious. One is that countries tend to become more authoritarian in wartime. It's just the nature of war. People are dying. The stakes are high. People's emotions have risen to a very high point, to a crescendo. And so there's much less tolerance for any kind of dissent in the homeland. The irony, of course, is the United States fights wars on behalf of freedom, but there's always less of it here in our country during war. So that's a widely recognized phenomenon, and it's likely to happen now too. Another point to make that is worth knowing is that the USIC, the intelligence agency, spy on Americans. Now, you probably knew that, and it's been revealed a lot, including by Julian Assange and Ed Snowden, both of whom are threatened with death for revealing it, but everyone knows.
And we should never forget that that's what our own government does to our people.
I have a question. What was Tucker's position throughout the Julian Assange and or Edward Snowden, stories through
I'd have to go all the way back with the Snowden, because that goes all the way back to 2010. But he was
the fact that he was just interviewing Glenn Greenwald is definitely a sign that he has respect for the Snowden story in general. But sure. I don't know what his position was on that. Or was he on Assange? But
I know that he was always behind Assange. That much I know. Okay. Right. But as far as Snowden goes, again, I don't know if his position evolved.
Justice for All says he supported him. Okay. Thank you. That was my question. Continue.
And I think, like I said, there is nobody who is truly more powerful and influential. The only person, especially in conservative politics, as a personality, sorry, Mark Levin, you don't amount to shit. Neither do you, Ben Shapiro.
That's once.
The only person in terms of, let's say, the person who has the greatest influence on those over the age of 35, much as Charlie Kirk had the influence of the people under the age of 35. There is nobody who has a greater amount of influence than Tucker Carlson. So to suggest that he is a threat in the same vein that somebody like Charlie Kirk was would be an understatement. So is it surprising that the Zionist Brigade would sick the CIA after him? No. Why would it? They're going to spiral completely out of control. Remember, everything for the most part used to be done in the shadows. Now it's being done in full view of the public, and they do not care. They don't care who sees it. They don't care who knows about it. This is where we are.
Okay, so if he was supportive, but everyone's coming and saying he was definitely supportive of both of them, which is good to know. So at least I can know now that in the realm of the concept of free speech and expression, that he is, he's consistent.
But it's probably a little more widespread than most people understand. And it's outrageous. There's no justification for your government, which you own, you're a shareholder in it, you pay for it, to be violating your privacy like this. But it happens all the time. And in fact, one of the reasons that CIA or people within CIA, just to be clear, it's a huge, sprawling, disconnected agency. What it does in a specific case doesn't represent what everybody in the building thinks, but there are some people who are mad at me for my views about Israel, and they have some latitude. And one of the reasons they pass on criminal complaints, in effect, to law enforcement is to justify warrants for spying on Americans. So that is an absolutely real thing. But the main reason they do it is to leak the existence of the investigation, such as it is, to the media, and then humiliate and terrify the subjects of this op. And that's, of course, happened to me repeatedly, many times, including in famously 2021 when I was still at Fox News and trying to set up an interview with Vladimir Putin.
Okay, Tony D. Rocklever wants to know what balkanize means. So what he's referring to is the Balkan states, okay? And the Balkan area, which is, I don't know if you call it like Eastern Europe. I'm not sure what you call it. I mean, you're talking about Bosnia, Serbia, Yugoslavia, Herzegovina, and that area in there. And when we all get involved in stuff, when you balkanize it, is you're breaking it up into a whole bunch of little things that are more manageable and controllable by empire. So instead of Iran being its own nation state, our intent would be to go in there and break it up like we just did with Syria, like we've done with Libya, and make it so it is so like unstable, and there are so many different groups and militia and fighting, and it gets broken into different terrains and pieces and nations. And that way they don't have any unity and we can control the situation. So balkanize means to break up and divide in the same way that we did to the Balkan states. Okay. So that's my, hi Lila, that's my best explanation. And if I mispronounced any of the Balkan states, I'm sorry.
Kind of like the Soviet Union. It's harder to control it when it's a whole bunch of nations working in concert versus individual ones that you can control through NATO. Just saying.
The NSA, I heard from someone there, had grabbed my text messages with an American citizen and had leaked them to news outlets. Those texts were basically my attempts to set up an interview with the foreign head of state, and they leaked them to the New York Times in order to stop the interview, which they successfully did, by the way. And they admitted that they were spying. I mean, this is not a fantasy. It actually happened. They did it again 2 years later. My second attempt to get a Putin interview, I managed to get it anyway, and they've done it since. And so when you get a call from a reporter who knows the contents of your texts, it's pretty clear something's going on. None of this, in my judgment, as of right now, is a huge threat to me. So I'm not making this video to complain about it or whine or ask you to send me money because I'm under attack. I'm saying it because it's true, and you should know what your own government is doing, and you should know what the stakes are. And you should know that a lot of what happens in this country that affects outcomes happens behind the scenes. Some of it is legal, some of it is not, including what I'm describing now. But it has an effect. And the intel agencies, again, not everyone in the intel agencies, because there are decent, hardworking Americans who work in the intel agencies are Americans, just like there are decent, hardworking Americans who work at the DMV. But there are also people with agendas and grudges and no sense of restraint who are happy to misuse the power they have granted them by our elaborate secrecy laws to hurt fellow Americans for ideological reasons. That is entirely real. That's the story of Russiagate. And it's likely that things like that will begin to happen at greater scale now. So you should just know that going forward. Thanks.